how many ideas, how many attempts does it take to become successful as a business coach? That's what we're talking about today on the Business Coaching Success Podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Regardless of where you are, I believe that today's topic can significantly improve the way you think and how you consider getting clients, adding value to them, helping them grow and get traction, and so on. Before we dive into it, if you are at a place in life where you're like, you know what, I'm really super interested in investing time into growing profitability into the life of a business owner and helping them to grow their business, but you don't have tools, resources, how do I get started? You don't have the support. I would encourage you to go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some information that you can get there to see exactly what we do with a done-for-you system that we provide to help you do that very thing. And if you're interested in a conversation, you can schedule a quick chat, and we'll just kind of share with you as a high-level overview exactly how we help and encourage and supply all the resources and tools to build a successful, profitable business coaching practice. Okay, the principle of the five. And I'm not going to dig into the science behind the five. I guess I could have a little bit, but you can discover that on your own. But there is this thing that's the bigger than the number, and the more important part about whether it's 3, 5, or 7 even. But the principle of the five is that, one, we have to understand, and I think we all know this on the surface level, that, look, trial and error there's reality to that, right? There is a reality to going out and beginning any kind of journey, to doing anything. And the first 1, 2, 3, or 4 times that you do it likely will not be good enough to be sustainable and create success. I don't care what it is. But we have fallen into what I call this vortex, it feels like, mostly because of social media and just the hype that you hear about how simple it is to be able to do any one number of things. And it's true that paths can be more simplified, which is exactly what we do with our done-for-you system, to where you're not having to create anything. That is reducing the complexity of building a coaching business, period. But we still have to remain mindful and realistic about trials and errors. They're just going to happen. And if you have the right kind of mindset, and if you adjust your mindset accordingly, you set yourself up for significant results. I'm going to explain to you, when I say adjusting your mindset, I'm going to give you some meat and potatoes types of things to approach, or how to approach in this very things. But we first, just on the onset, we understand, hey, trials and errors are a part of life. It's not that we love them, although I would make the argument is that when we fall in love with the process and we follow a process, regardless of what the process is, our opportunity and our chance for growth is significant, period. Okay? So first, we understand that trials and errors, they exist. They're real. I'm not going to avoid them. We don't always know when they come. We don't always know necessarily the size that they're going to come. Some are that happen because of our actions, or lack thereof for that matter. Other things happen. There's just nothing that you can do. It's just a part of life. That's one. Second thing is, from that, we begin to have an attitude and a mindset to adjust our expectations along the journey. So let's put this into practical reality. Someone starting out in building, in this case, a business coaching business. If you come out of the gate and you have this incredibly unrealistic expectations for the first 90 days, we'll call it, just for context, then that individual probably is going to be challenged, frustrated, simply because they did not have the correct expectations. We say, well, BJ, then what do you do to get the right expectations? Well, one, we want to follow the lead of those who've gone before us, period. Okay? We want to study what they've done, interview them, have a conversation, utilize a plan and a path, exactly what we do and what we provide for coaches. So someone who just ignores all of that and someone who just kind of starts out and they have this and I'm going to use the word arrogance, and I don't mean that to be ugly, but they have this arrogance that I know better than everyone that's gone before me. And they don't listen to advice. They don't take into consideration. And in this world, this day in this world, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A couple of weeks ago, my wife's car had an issue with the starter. And without getting into the weeds, I could have made a couple of decisions. I was going to do, first of all, as a challenge, and we own a bunch of Jeeps, so, I've been under the hood a little bit. And so I knew enough. And so I could have just gone into that engine and just started to tinker and to see what happens. Or I found a really solid step-by-step tutorial on YouTube that walked me through it was a 6-hour job, by the way, but it walked me through the entire process. I did not have to think. And so because I understood the process, I had watched that video multiple times. And one of the things that jumped out in the comments of this is that multiple guys said, look, you need to be patient. You're going to run into some bolts and some things that are going to be difficult because there's limited space inside where the cavity of where this part of the starter of this vehicle sits. So it's going to be a challenge. You absolutely can get it done. It's going to take longer than what you think. Be prepared for some moments where this is going to feel like it's just not going to work. And so I went into that project with some pretty decent expectations, and patience is not like this normal thing that I naturally born with. Okay, lots of other people are way better at patience than I am. So even attempting this project alone, my wife was like, "Are you really sure that you should try this?" And so, but we did. It worked out, but it did take a long time. I absolutely ran into several different challenges. One of them, I did think, I just don't know that I'm going to be able to do this because I just couldn't get the bolt broken. Part of that was I didn't have the right tools. And so, but we made it work. But the point is, you got to adjust expectations. So let's put some meat and potatoes on when we talk about the principle of the 5 into the reality of beginning to build and to grow successfully a business coaching practice, okay? Number one, as we begin to build ways that we can interact with prospects, number of different ways, everybody's personality and their experiences and whatnot is going to dictate what makes the best approach. To do that, we've got multiple trainings and podcasts you can go back through and talking about working with prospects and leads for sure. But here's the thing. Let's just say that you decide that, just for context, that you are going to approach some of the people that I call inside your sphere of influence to let them know what you're doing and ultimately potentially to get introduced to others in their network that they believe could be a viable contact. It could be the business owner. It could be somebody who just has a very extensive network and so on. Let's say that you built we'll call it a framework and certainly a messaging strategy, emails, text, whatever, phone call, and you pick up the phone or you send out that first email to that individual. You know them. You may know them really well. You may not know them at all. You know who they are. They know who you are, but you don't have a really strong relationship, regardless of the case. You send it out. You send out a second one, a third one, and you're not getting any results. Well, what we want to do in that case, in the power of 5, our expectations, if we just send it out the first time we get an automatic response, it's like that's probably, the likelihood of that is probably low. Why? Numbers matter. And more than importantly, because we've never done this before, we likely need to adjust either strategy or the content, right? And then we send out some more. We adjust again, and then eventually, and that's why 5 is arbitrary. It could be 3, it could be 10. This depends. 5 is a pretty solid number, though. We see that when you make an action, an activity, multiple times in a row, you then begin, especially when you make adjustments based upon feedback that you're getting or lack thereof, that's when you start to see results happen. The individual who sends out 3 or 4 or 5 in a row and they get nothing, they're like, well, that didn't work. Well, no, it will work. All of it works. But you've got to stay consistent to the process. All right. That's why in every single part of the journey, you want to adopt a mindset of testing and refining. Testing and refining, right? To eventually you just know that, hey, this process, at least as of now, really works and really works well. That's only going to happen when you are consistent, when you're repetitive, when you're testing, and when you're refining. Okay, so let's talk about the same context with you're interacting with leads, you're interacting with prospects. In the coaching space, you're going to have some type of apparatus that is essentially showing them how you can help them grow their business and how you're the right choice for the job for them to hire you. Okay, there's lots of different ways that looks like. In this context, I'll use the word assessment because that's what we do inside our system. We have a really amazing process and an assessment that shows a business owner how we can help them find significant financial impacts for growth in their business. All right. If I'm just starting out, all right, and I sit down with the first prospect, the second prospect, I'm going to blow it if my mindset is, I know for a fact I'm going to close both of these, right? There's a high likelihood that, I've not practiced enough. I've not done it enough. And so I know automatically I need to do at least 5, if not even more. And this is going to be a different deal for everyone, because if you've got significant sales experience, if you're naturally gifted for communication, especially using a tool like software like we do, or whatever the case may be, maybe you've had experiences from being in front of crowds of people and whatnot, so you have that. Clearly, those assets are obviously likely going to help you in a significant way versus somebody who's never done those things. It may take them just a little bit longer to get practice, to get comfortable, to get confident in the process. So if I were to sit down with first prospect, second prospect, third spot, and nothing happens, and I quit, it won't be because it didn't work. It will be because I didn't have the right expectations, number 1. I didn't have the right mindset, number 2, and I didn't have enough repetition, number 3. And that's the reason why the power of 5 is such a powerful, simple model to follow. I got to have enough repetition to make this work. Let's look at it in the workshop model. One of the things that we really do push is it's an excellent strategy. Probably don't have to explain that to you when you're standing in front of a few people, 5 to 8 people in a conference room style. You present some content. You show them what's possible in growing the business. You're a connector to the people that are in the room, so on and so on and so on. Super valuable process. And in our system, we give coaches all the resources, the slide decks, you name it, to make those things work. Well, if you schedule just one workshop and you invited, 20 people to get to your 5 to 8 in the room and nobody came, and you're like, well, that didn't work. No, it does work. You didn't follow the power of the 5. As a matter of fact, true story, we have a guy in our community who started out, his first 2 workshops did not convert a soul. In his 3rd workshop, he was able to convert 4 people, 4 prospects at $2,500 a month. So he brought in $10,000 a month from one session. I'd make the argument though, that took him a 5-month process to build his first one. He did it, didn't get any conversions. He worked on it, did a second one, didn't get any conversions. He worked on it, did a third one, and it converted. And he did that inside the power of the 5. But that's exactly the process that you follow. You adjust, you test, you see what works, you stop doing what's not working, and you continue to develop more and more things that are working and showing that a path of success. Okay? And through all this, when you understand the power of the 5, it just means that repetition matters, to do things over and over and to test and adjust and so on. I keep forgetting the word refine. You test and refine. You're wanting to listen to feedback. I'm listening to feedback from my sphere of influence. I'm listening to feedback from prospects. I'm listening to feedback from people in the room at a workshop. I'm listening for feedback if I'm trying to create, referral partnerships. We call them joint ventures. inside our community and so on. I'm listening to this feedback and I'm utilizing that to be a part of the refining process. So after I do it the first time, I make some refinements. If I go the second time, I make some refinements. Third time, refinements. Fourth time, refinements. Those refinements, though, are largely a part of the feedback that I'm getting from individuals. And that feedback sometimes is silence. So if I'm getting silence from something, I know it's not working. I've got to make some adjustments. So, power of the 5. It's not that complicated, truly. It really isn't. One of the biggest reasons why coaches struggle is they simply don't follow through. They give up way too early, or they follow through, but they don't make any adjustments. They don't listen to feedback. You got to make some adjustments. You have to test, most importantly, though, as you're connecting with people. You listen, you respond, you adjust until you really start to see the results that you absolutely can have. So, hope that added value to you today. The biggest thing that you can do is to take action, period. Okay? Take action. Don't let content like this and a podcast like this just become valuable insights and information. Let it be a part of your journey, but you have to take the action to go forward. All right? Until next time, take care.